Hello and welcome back to Learning Lockdown. It is week 2. We're coming to you from Liverpool College. I'm Mr. S.
I am Mr. A. Well, we had a fantastic week last week, and if you haven't already seen it, you need to check out our highlights video that we released over the weekend of week 1, because it was a fantastic week.
It was a very fun week. We hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for all the work you put in. But it's time to go again, because now it is week 2.
Week 2. Roll the credits. Okay, so what have we got in line for you today? Well, it's the usual start, and then we're chucking in a new segment again. So we're going to kick off straight away with some English at 9:30.
Then, straight after English, we've got some maths.
After that, we're carrying on with reading, but we're changing our genre. No, we're not. Then we're going on to reading, and we're changing from fiction to non-fiction.
Very good. And then after lunch, we've got a brand new segment for you, okay? Because we're going to do some geography together.
Where in the world? Then we're having our creative challenge for today. Again, a nice simple one. Get those cameras out because you're going to need them.
Then we're going to do some extracurricular time with our friends from Equip, so we'll hand over to them at the end of our day with you.
Yeah, if you need to find that stuff that's not posted on our channel, that is their channel, so at Equip Coaching.
Jump over to Equip Coaching.
And if you haven't already, please hit subscribe. Please hit the little bell so you'll get notifications. Please follow us on Twitter at learninglockdown or Instagram at learninglockdown or Facebook at learninglockdown.
Lots of ways.
Lots of ways. Let's crack on with English. So last week we did loads on descriptive settings, didn't we, Mr. S?
Yes, and we saw some absolutely wonderful descriptions from people. They were really, really, really nice. I enjoyed reading them.
It's a lot of reallys.
Well, I could have thrown some more. I never wanted to.
You were looking at using adjectives, prepositions, expanded noun phrases, your senses. You used all sorts of skills as you looked to describe your ideal place to go on lockdown, and an unusual object and an unusual creature. But we're moving on today, and we're going to start looking at not adjectives, but adverbs. What's an adverb, Mr. S?
An adverb is any word or group of words, if it's an adverbial phrase, that describes an action, describes the verb, describes what's going on.
And actually, the hint is in the name. It adds to the verb, because we should know a verb is a doing word, an action, and it adds to that. It tells us how we're doing that action, maybe when we're doing that action. And particularly those two we're going to focus on today. We're going to focus on adverbs of time, so when we're doing something, and adverbs of manner. So let's crack on straight away with adverbs of time, or adverbials we might call them, of time. Mr. S.
So, an adverb of time, sometimes called an adverbial phrase, and sometimes even called a time connective. They're all one and the same.
Too many names!
So they have different names, but they do the same job, okay? And basically, we use these to tell us when the action is taking place. So, Mr. A, are you going to write us an example?
Yes, why not?
So let's have the sentence on its own, first of all, without an adverb of time.
Little extra learning, we have an apostrophe because it's possessive. It is Monday's lessons, not plural. There's not more than one Monday. It's Monday's lesson.
The lessons belong to Monday. Now, here you can see Mr. A and Mr. S recorded Monday's lessons. So that's all that we know for now. But we want to add when they did that. Okay?
Well, first of all, we need to identify what the verb is. So can you see there? What is the action? What is the doing that is happening in that sentence? Well, it is recorded. That's what we did. That was the action that took place. So, when did we do that?
Well, right now it is Thursday morning, so why don't we go with that? So, we can add the phrase on Thursday morning into this sentence, and there's a few different places we could add it. If we put it right at the end, that works, okay? We'd have to get rid of that full stop and just add in that adverbial phrase or adverb of time on Thursday morning. And that tells us when Mr. A and Mr. S recorded the lessons. Thursday morning. But there are other places we can put this too. We can put it at the start of the sentence. Have a look at this.
Capital letter for the start of sentences.
We've now put our adverb of time, our adverbial phrase, at the start of this sentence. And we call this a fronted adverbial because it's at the front of the sentence.
It's in the name.
There is a super important thing you have to do though, and you might have noticed Mr. A has already done it. The all-important comma. Okay, so a fronted adverbial goes at the front.
They could even be shorter. We could have said earlier, Mr. A and Mr. Stamper recorded Monday's lessons.
If you really want to push yourself, there is one final place you can insert this adverb of time, and that is in the middle of the sentence, okay? But this time, you need to do something slightly different with your punctuation. Take a look. Thank you, Mr. A. So now you can see that we have moved our adverb of time into the middle of the sentence, but you may notice that when we do that, we have to use 2 commas, one at the beginning of our adverb of time and one at the end. And we call this an embedded clause because we are embedding it into the middle of the sentence. So we now have Mr. A and Mr. S, pause, on Thursday morning, recorded Monday's lessons. So that's 3 different ways to use our adverb of time to tell us when that verb is taking place.
In your activities below, you will have some adverbs to spot, and can you tell me if it is an adverb of time or the next one, an adverb of manner? So an adverb of manner does the same thing. It tells us more about the verb. It adds to the verb, an adverb. But this time, it doesn't tell us when, it tells us how that verb is done. So we'll keep our main clause the same. Mr. A and Mr. S recorded Monday's lessons. But how did they record Monday's lessons? We could say,
Poorly.
We could say, with great enthusiasm. Sometimes. Let's try it. Let's first of all put it at the end. So we put it at the end again. It's not just a single word of an adverb, it's an adverbial phrase because we've used more than one word. Mr. A and Mr. S recorded Monday's lessons with great enthusiasm. And we don't need a comma because it comes at the end of the sentence. Let's try it at the start. Capital letters. With great enthusiasm, Mr. A and Mr. S recorded Monday's lessons. But this time we've got our comma in there because it is a fronted adverbial phrase. It comes at the front. And the final one, can it go in the middle? There we go. It's now embedded in the middle of that sentence. So we have it reading like this. Mr. A and Mr. S, with great enthusiasm, recorded Monday's lessons. And we've got those commas either side. Now, your task today. Down below, you've got some sentences with adverbial phrases in them. First of all, can you spot whether it's an adverb of time or an adverbial of manner? Then can you tell me if it's just normal at the end of a sentence, maybe if it's embedded, or even if it's a fronted adverbial? And can you spot those commas to help you?
And then your next task, underneath in the description, we have placed a few videos, okay, of Mr. S and Mr. A doing a few unusual things. And what we want you to do is we want you to write a sentence describing what they're doing, but we want you to write it 3 times. Once with a fronted adverbial, once with an adverbial at the end, and once with an adverbial embedded into the middle.
It might be an adverbial of time, it might be an adverbial of manner. We look forward to seeing them. Send them to us at learninglockdown. Send them to us at learninglockdown, depending on if you're using Twitter, Instagram or Facebook, or send them us via email at learninglockdown@gmail.com. That's all.